Boyd Wiggum is with Wyoming Liberty Group, which is a think tank in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And we got a list of topics we're going to go through today on the program. You sent me a list. One of the first things that really caught my eye, Boyd, and for those people who work up in the industry, especially up where I am in this part of the country, it's a deep, important interest. Environmental groups suing the state of Wyoming over new trespass to collect resource data. What is that all about?
Well, if you'll remember, and perhaps this slid under your radar, but this past session in the winter of 2015, the Wyoming legislature passed a pair of new laws that are designed to help protect property owners, help give property owners more tools to protect their property rights. Specifically, the laws both provided a civil remedy and criminalized the act of trespassing with the intent to collect resource data. So, you've got your garden variety trespass where I go waltzing across your yard and do whatever damage I do, maybe create a footpath or
hunting, something like that.
Yeah. Well, these environmental groups have developed a habit of maybe walking across a rancher's land,
right,
trying to get to an end holding, maybe some state land or federal land, someplace in the checkerboard pattern that we see around the state, especially further west, with the intent of trying to collect some, it's called resource data, but maybe water samples, soil samples, something like that they could then take to the feds and say, hey, look at this, this rancher is being a bad guy and trying to destroy the earth and whatever environmental groups worry about. And therefore, we snuck onto his property and we got this proof that you can use to try to put him out of business.
Now, let's talk specifically about what's wrong with that, because to play devil's advocate for a minute, an environmental group might say, yeah, but we found the following there, and this is important, so who cares how we got it? We caught him dumping oil into a river or something like that. But isn't it the case, I mean, you're a lawyer, correct me if I'm wrong here, isn't it the case that even if the government wants to go on to your land and look for some problem like that they would have to have some kind of a warrant?
Yes and no. Okay. When you get into open land as opposed to being within your house, over time the courts have been a little more lenient about what they let the police come do without a warrant. But yes, in principle, that is the key point, is that if the government's going to enter your property to try to find something to help put you in jail or take away your things, take away your stuff, they've got to go get a court to give them permission to do it.
Okay, so these environmental groups aren't even doing that. They're just walking on somebody's land. So wouldn't that mean, let's say they went onto my land and they found something on my land. In court, couldn't you just take the evidence and throw it out because of the way the evidence was collected?
Not necessarily. Okay. Not necessarily. In fact, that was one of the things that was built into these new statutes that Wyoming passed, was that if somebody had committed this crime or this tort of trespassing to collect resource data, then whatever data they collected could not be used, in court or in some sort of administrative regulatory proceeding that was going to ding the landowner. So that was one of the things that was built into this.
Okay.
Was keep that out.
I got to ask, though, if we're talking about this, though, has this been a problem? Have environmental groups actually been doing this in the state of Wyoming, or does this come from somewhere else?
No, it's been a problem. This legislation came out of some activity that was happening. I think it's in the western part of the state, maybe around Big Piney or Pinedale. I could be wrong on the exact location, but kind of in that Green River Valley area, where yes, folks were crossing people's private property to try to collect information they could use to hurt the property owner's business.
Okay, so what did we wind up with here, or do you know yet? Because I know these things have to go through committees and all this kind of stuff. As a piece of legislation, what's this going to end up looking like? What does it do?
Well, here's where we're at now, is the legislation was actually passed. It's on the books right now. And what is happening now is these environmental groups are suing the state, trying to get the legislation thrown out on constitutional grounds, claiming it's a First Amendment violation. But the legislation itself criminalized. It in fact criminalized two things. One, trespassing with the intent to collect resource data, and then trespassing with and actually collecting the data.
Right. Okay.
So it.
Well, why wouldn't, I'm kind of curious, why wouldn't just trespassing work? Why? Who cares about the intent? Somebody's on my property without my permission. Can I just have them thrown off and arrested or something like that?
Well, and that's where the arguments the environmental groups are raising is, hey, we already have trespass laws. Now the problem with trespass is if you're going to try to collect damages as a landowner,
right,
you have to prove damages. And just walking across somebody's property, incidentally, because maybe you thought you were on public land and now you're on private land, while technically it's illegal and technically you can be sued, that doesn't mean that there's any real financial damages that the court's going to award. And the other thing that is really important in this legislation is what you brought up earlier, which was that under the new laws, any of that data that somebody was trespassing to obtain is not admissible, cannot be used against the landowner.
Okay, now let me toss you a curveball. I don't know if you've thought about this, but while you were talking, I've been thinking about this all along. Hey, it's the modern technological era, Boyd. What if I'm an environmentalist and I just launch a drone across your property?
Oh, now you're really getting into some fun stuff, and
yeah.
I don't know where we're at yet, because the rights to the airspace over private property has gradually eroded over time.
Mm-hmm.
If this was the year 11 or 1200, I think we'd be able to say, yeah, that was a trespass, because whoever owned the soil owned the rights to be above the soil. But with the advent of airplanes, there's kind of a gray area in there.
Yeah, isn't it just a matter of altitude? Like, in other words, if I'm above treetop level, I'm okay. Because if I flew over your property in an ultralight, then I would be just a little above treetop level and I should be okay. I thought the rule was, but if I'm below treetop level, then you can claim trespassing.
And I don't know where that line is. I know that there's some sort of a balancing test in there, that the closer you get to the ground, the more apt you are to have trespassed, and the higher you are. And depending on what you're doing up there, if you're just flying over because you're flying over like a 747 would, or a 777 would, then you're not dealing with trespassing. But the closer you get to the ground, the more trouble you're apt to get into.
Because if you wanted to get really technical, and we'll get into some of your other issues next up here, but if you really want to get technical and have fun with this, Boyd, isn't Google trespassing with their Google images taking pictures of your property from outer space, if you want to go that far? They're above the atmosphere, I know, but they were taking pictures of your property in your backyard, and maybe you didn't want that.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I think that's where we get into some of the gray areas, and I can't give you an answer there.
Yeah, that's just where I love sitting down and lighting up a good cigar with some guys and going, but what if? Okay, let's get away from that, because it gets into too many what ifs. Another one that you sent me, City of Rawlins attack on a small local trash hauling company by passing a flow control ordinance. So what is that all about? Because it sounds to me like, once again, they're opposed to private enterprise.
Exactly. I know in the past we've talked about places like Cheyenne or Casper that tell residents that, not only do you have to have your trash picked up every week, whether your container's full or not, but you can only hire the city to do it for you. Mm. You're not allowed to haul your own trash or hire a private company. Rawlins is a step better. Rawlins lets each person can hire whichever private company they want to haul their trash. There's a couple of providers in the Rawlins market. There's a outfit called Dirty Boys, which is, a local Rollins
It's a
company.
great name.
And then I'm told that there's a subsidiary of Waste Management. There was a company that Waste Management bought that had operations there in Rollins. Would be, I think it's called Wyoming Waste or something. But so there's a couple of private companies that come and pick up your trash, the way we would hope that free enterprise would work. However, they're in Rollins. They've got landfill problems. They've been shipping their trash to Casper, and they're trying to figure out how to close their landfill. And so, as any good business enterprise would, one of those two companies, the Dirty Boys, decided to build their own transfer station to, switch the trash from small trucks to big trucks to haul off to the landfill, and figured they could cut costs and do things more efficiently, and all those things that we really hope private enterprise does and expect private enterprise to do. And
in other words, they were being efficient.
Yeah, they were being efficient. They were being modern. They were being a good business. Now, the problem here is City of Rollins has this transfer station that everybody had been hauling to. I'm guessing it was at the landfill. I don't know. And then you go, and then Rollins was trucking the trash up to Casper, is the way I understand it. And they were afraid they were going to lose some of their business. So now the City of Rollins, as of this past Monday, passed an ordinance on third reading, which means it's final, that anybody that's hauling trash out of the City of Rollins has to go to the city-owned transfer station and then pay whatever fee it is that the city wants to collect. You can't take trash out of Rollins to any other destination.
Here's what I always wonder about, and I want you to think about this and give me the answer when we come back from this next break here, if you would. But isn't it interesting that according to our laws, the very idea of a monopoly is against the law? We're not allowed to have a monopoly unless that is a government-run monopoly. Then all of a sudden, that's okay. And back to Cheyenne, Wyoming, we go where Boyd Wiggum with Wyoming Liberty Group is standing by. Okay, Boyd, I'm going to put a scenario in front of you here. My name is Tony, and I have a bakery here in town, and you own a grocery store. There's several grocery stores in town, but, you're not doing business with me. You're picking up with some other guys, and so I'm going to make sure that you only do business with me. Or else. Now, don't I get arrested? Isn't that like mafioso activity there? I mean, wouldn't I be arrested for something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so why can government get away with it then in the case of Rollins?
Oh, because governments are special.
Oh,
because lawmakers, when they pass laws, figure elected governments are special.
Yeah. So they get away with stuff that you and I would be arrested for. Got it. Okay. So it might sound like it's a small thing that, with garbage collection in Rollins, that everybody has to go to the distribution center, if you will, that's owned by the government. They just don't want the competition. They don't want the revenue stream taken away. Do they give any kind of logic at all to this?
Well, that's exactly what it is. This new law, this new ordinance down there at the City of Rollins is timed to correspond with the trash company's completion. They're completing construction of their own transfer station. Yeah. There wasn't any law in place until there was competition in place. So you get at the point exactly, and that is that this is very, very clearly about competition. I don't think anybody's argued that the trash transfer is going to be any less sanitary than it was before with the new facility, and so
might it even be cheaper?
You hit the nail on the head.
It could even be cheaper and more beneficial if you think about it.
It very well could be, other than the fact that it might cut back on how the local government, City Rollins, was getting their piece of the action.
Well, and you know what this reminds me of? I've been a big fan ever since they came onto the scene of Uber and other ride-sharing companies out there. And, of course, the unionized in with the government boys taxi cab services in cities all across America would like Uber run out of business, for all of the reasons that they found an interesting way to get around all the government rules and regulations. And they don't have to basically pay their share to the mafia, which would be the government in this case. So I admire companies like Uber coming onto the scene and finding a way just for private citizens to do what private citizens want to do with their own vehicles. So I wonder about something. Let's just say, for the fun of it, you and I were both living in Cheyenne and we're buddies. And we decided we're going to make a little money on the side. So we're just going to start knocking on our neighbors' doors and saying, hey, we'll pick up your trash. And, I've got a pickup truck, Boyd. We're going to use it. We're just going to pick up trash for maybe like 10 houses just to make some money on the side. Would we get in trouble for that?
In Cheyenne, yes.
Yeah.
In Cheyenne, the only people you can go to have your trash picked up is the city.
Yeah.
Now, there's an exception for businesses. So, you and I could be picking up trash from various businesses around town, and we might be able to get away with it, but not going door to door in a neighborhood and hauling off trash.
Okay, here's where
That's not the case everywhere, but it is the case in Cheyenne.
Here again is where I like to descend into that theoretical stuff. So you live next door to some sweet little old lady who's too old to take out her trash anymore. And she offers you a few dollars every time you take her trash out to the dump. Are you going to get in trouble?
Am I taking it out of the city of Cheyenne out to the dump?
Yeah.
Probably. I'm not even allowed to take my own trash to the dump when I'm in Cheyenne.
Really? Your own? You can't take your own trash to the dump as a free citizen in a free country?
The way I read the ordinance, if I'm talking about household trash, now, of course, you can make runs with bigger stuff, and we've got other things, but just a weekly hauling your kitchen trash and what household trash out, I don't think that you can haul it to the land.
Well, last one. If I'm not allowed to take my own private trash to the dump and I get in trouble for that, would I get in trouble if I took my own private trash to the mayor's front lawn and dumped it there?
Now we're getting back to that first topic we talked about, the whhole trespassing thing.
Trespassing thing. All right. Hey, Boyd, where do people find your work? These are some interesting articles.
Yes, we are at wyliberty.org. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay. As always, Boyd, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Glenn, and have a great afternoon.
You too.